Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head along to one of my local breweries here in Clackmannanshire in central Scotland once again. So we're going to do another beer from Williams Brothers Brewing Company, who are based in Alloa, and this is one of the beers from their historic recipe range. So we're going to have a taste of Alba today. So this one comes in at 7.5% and it's supposed to be a tripel style beer, but it's brewed with some nice kind of Scotch pine and spruce needles and stuff like this, so it should be a really interesting one for us to try. This is a beer I've wanted to try for quite a wee while, but I've actually just never got around to it. So as always, I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer, and it is cool to try another one from their historic recipe range. So yeah, so anyway, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Williams Brothers Brewery before. I think this is review number 20 or so that I've done from these guys. I've done a good number of their beers, so check out the other ones. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there, of course, for all the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you give the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Williams Brothers then. So this company started as the Glenbrew home brewing shop over in Glasgow, and the first beer that they produced was inspired by a 17th century Gaelic recipe for the Freya Heather Ale, which is of course named after the Celtic mythological hero of the same name. So in 1988, a woman of Highland descent or Gaelic descent, noble descent, whatever you want to say, she came into the brew shop with a translation of this recipe into English, and she wanted to create a batch of this beer to share with her family. So Bruce agreed to help with this in exchange for actually being able to use the recipe commercially, and I do believe that they have an agreement with her family where basically they can have as much of the beer as they want because of how successful this has been for the company. But they produced a small batch of this, only 5 barrels, in Tainoak railway station over in Argyll and Bute, and the following year the demand for this beer had increased exponentially, and it just kind of kept growing and growing and growing. But Scott joined his brother Bruce at this point, and they began to develop other historic recipes. So this was the Groatset, the Gooseberry Wheat Ale, the Kelpie, which is a seaweed ale, Ebaloon, which is the Elderberry Black Ale, and this guy as well, which is the Alba, the Scots Pine Ale. And these 4 recipes were actually produced at the Craigmill Brewery in Straven between 1998 and 2004. And in 2004 the company relocated to their current base at the 4th Brewery in Kellybank in Alloa, which was when they adopted the name Williams Brothers Brewing Company. And since they've been in there, they've developed a number of new recipes. I think it's maybe around 40 different beers or so they've developed since they've moved in there. So they are one of Scotland's most kind of prolific craft breweries, in fact, and they do some really nice stuff. As I always say to you, when it comes to Scottish craft breweries, you do tend to have the breweries that are in the traditional bracket, and then you have the breweries that are in the more kind of American style bracket. These guys, I would say, are more of a traditional brewery, although they do like to play a little bit with some of the kind of new wave American hops and stuff like this. They do some really quite nice stuff, but I would particularly recommend Williams Brothers when it comes to their sessionable beers. I mean, the Caesar Augustus is one that I really like. Of course, there's the Pavlov's Dog as well. I quite like the March of the Penguins, which is one of their stouts too, but they've produced some really nice stuff, and just give their beers a try. I know they're quite nice sessionable beers for the most part. But oddly enough, these guys are the last brewery in the old brewing capital of Scotland. There used to be a lot of whisky distilleries around this area, and I think at one point there was about 6 or 7 breweries in Alloa actually as well. But these guys are the last one, and we do have a lot of whisky stills and things, or whisky aging places around here. I think you would call them the maturation halls and stuff like this. And we actually get a little black moss on the house because of the evaporating ethanol as well, which is kind of interesting. So if you do get the chance to visit Clackmannanshire, you'll know that it is. There's a rumour that goes around that the whisky in Clackmannanshire is worth more than the gold over in Fort Knox in America. So it's quite an interesting place, but very scenic. And you've got some good breweries here. Harveston, of course, is the other one you have in Clackmannanshire if you do visit here. But anyway, that's all you need to know about the brewery just now. Let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So as I mentioned to you, this one is a 7.5% beer. It is a kind of tripel style according to Williams Brothers. They say introduced by by the Vikings, spruce and pine ales were very popular in northern Scotland until the end of the 19th century. Complex, rich and tawny, Alba is a triple style ale brewed to a traditional Highland recipe using sprigs of spruce and pine collected every spring. So yeah, quite an interesting one this. They have changed the label of this recently. You can see the old label is kind of in the background there a little bit. It used to have a very different label from this, but they've changed it to suit the other ones they have. I think they changed the labels of all of the historic recipes actually. There you can see the typical Williams Brothers bottle cap on this one, and this kind of Celtic symbol of course is what makes them quite recognisable. But yeah, without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. We're really looking forward to this one, and I don't know why I just never got around to trying this beer before. So we'll get it out and into the glass. What I should also point out actually is that Williams Brothers, I think, are one of the Scottish breweries who do export their beers quite a little bit as well. So those of you watching, I think, in Australia, New Zealand, America and Canada at least, you will be able to get some of these beers. I even saw the Freyach actually over in Japan when I was there, so maybe even in different places like that. I'm not sure about South America right enough. I'll need to ask Fabrizio about that. But yeah. As you can see, this beer's poured a really nice, almost coppery colour actually. It's showing up a little bit darker on the camera as I can see, but it's got a nice little bit of a kind of coppery colour to it. I think that's the best descriptor for this one, is a kind of clear, coppery, orange amber colour. So there's a solid kind of half finger, I would say, of a frothy white head to this one. Some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there, but overall it does look really quite nice. So yeah, it's kind of what I was expecting a little bit, a nice little kind of red beer. So let's take a closer look at the aroma and see how we get on then. Now that's quite interesting, because I'm not getting all that much in the way of spruce and pine and things like that out of it. There's a wee bit of it on the top end of the nose, but overall this beer does actually come across as quite malty. It's got that almost kind of buttered bread toast sort of thing to it. There's a nice little bit of biscuit in there, there's some richer caramel, some brown bready notes as I was saying. There's a little bit of a woody character to it as well, but mainly it's leaning towards this nice toasted kind of caramelly biscuity malt in fact. But that's a really nice smelling beer. I do like it. I'm just surprised that there's not a little bit more of the kind of piney spruce character coming out of it. You can get a little bit of that, like I was saying, and there's an element of a kind of grassy sort of biscuity character coming out of the beer as well. But yeah, it is a nice smelling beer. It's very, very simple, and that's one of the things with the Williams Brothers beers. They're always just light, nice and light in their aroma. There can be a little bit of complexity to them, but they are fairly straight up, I would say. They're not going to jump out of the glass at you. But this is a nice smelling beer. I do like the way that the malt and the kind of almost bread and butter type thing that comes out of this is really interesting. And it does have just a little bit of that kind of piney freshness. Once your nose adjusts to it a little bit more, it does start to come out. So I was telling you lies when I was saying it's not really there. It really does just take your nose a little bit of time to actually adjust to it and pick it up. Because I'm definitely getting it now. When you sugar the beer about and just let it open up a wee bit, that's when you start to get these nice kind of woody and resinous notes coming out of it. So just make sure you do that with this beer. As I always say, when it comes to craft beer, whiskey and sake and all this, the aroma is always really quite interesting. And it's half the experience, of course, as well. Yeah, so without further ado then, let's get stuck into this beer. So this is the Alba, which of course means Scotland in Gaelic, if you're wondering. And it's from Williams Brothers Brewing Company, one of my local breweries here in Clackmannanshire in Scotland. Let's get stuck into this beer. Slàinte. That's pretty nice, actually. It's a lot maltier than I was expecting, to be fair. I thought the pine raisins would be a little bit more kind of, would make it a little bit more bitter and things like that, but it's a nice malty and quite oily beer, this, more than anything. As I always say as well, sugar the beer around your palate and let your whole mouth adjust to it before you start analysing the flavour too much. But I have to say, this is pretty nice. I do like how this comes across. It's not one that's going to blow your head off in terms of maltiness, hoppiness or anything like that. It's more about how all the flavours kind of blend together, and this again is the kind of typical trademark of Williams Brothers. Their beers are all just meant to be about how the flavours blend together, and just kind of nice, sort of easy drinking, sessionable beers, I would say. But that's nice. So yeah, in the middle of your palate you've got a little bit of this, it's kind of lighter character, that sort of light, almost pale malty character that just blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that you've got this thicker white bready note. There's almost a little bit of a kind of butterscotchy flavour mixing in with that, which is quite interesting. In the middle of the palate, and right down the middle kind of line of your tongue, you can pick up this nice biscuity and sweet caramel note. It's a little bit toasted actually, which is kind of interesting, and I do just like how this whole malt base goes together. And as you progress further and further into the aftertaste, that's when you start to get a little bit more of this this kind of sprucey, pine resiny sort of thing. It's a nice oily character. It's not it's not something that just takes over the flavour of the beer. It's just a nice subtle character that almost just adds an extra layer of complexity to it. It's really interesting. Yeah, that's really, really nice. I wouldn't hesitate to drink this again anyway. I think this would be lovely actually as a cask ale. I've never seen a cask ale that's quite as high a percentage as this though, I think. But I think this would be lovely as one of these kind of pool cask beers, because it's just, the way the flavours go together in this is really quite nice. On the hoppy side of the beer, in the back corner of the palate there's a teeny little bit of earthiness, but as you come further forward you can feel a little bit of that floral aromatic character coming out. There's a wee bit of bitterness on the front corners of the palate, then round the front curve of the tongue you've got this lighter sort of lemongrassy note coming out there as well, which is nice. And then the pine resins, the sort of pine and sprucey resins to this one, they're sitting just behind the front curve of the palate as well, and you can feel them just pushing their way out across the whole of the palate. It's really interesting that. I don't know if they've maybe mashed them up and put them in oil or something like that, or if they've just left them at the bottom of the fermentation tank or something like that, but it really does add a nice kind of woody. The woody character again starts to come out in the aftertaste. They've probably just taken the branches and chucked them in the fermentation tanks. But it really does add just a nice kind of subtle complexity to the beer. So if you get the chance to try this, have a go at it, because it is one of the more unusual beers that you're going to come across. Yeah, that's nice. Try this beer if you get the chance. It's not like anything else I've tried in the 1,000 odd videos that I've done for you now. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one then, so I would say this beer's mid-bodied. Carbonation's very smooth. It's quite an oily mouthfeel, this one, more than anything. The malt base has a good bit of sweetness to it. The hops have a little tiny bit of bitterness, but really they're not that bitter at all. There's not really any fruity character from this one, I would say. And then the piney characters that come out of this beer, it's nice and oily, and it just gives you that almost kind of infused flavour. It's almost like a kind of that infused note you get from a kind of barrel-aged beer, if that makes sense. It's kind of as if you were sort of aging this one in a pine barrel, which would be quite interesting. In fact, that would be an interesting experiment to do. But this one, it really is just a very kind of unusual beer, and of course that's what you want as a beer reviewer. And I think it's very cool that Williams Brothers have kind of redeveloped this recipe for the modern age. So yeah, I have to give them a big thumbs up for that. But I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again. And if you want something that really is kind of quite unique, this is a beer that you want to go for. So I do need to try a couple other of these of the historic recipes that Williams Brothers do. I think the Abelum might be the one that comes up next, so hopefully I can get a hold of that for you at some point. But it's been really cool to try this one. As I said, one that I've been meaning to try for a wee while but just didn't get round to. But it's a very, very interesting beer, and I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on it. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Williams Brothers Brewery as well. Hopefully I've either reviewed them already or I can review them in the fairly near future. But I will catch you guys very soon with more beer reviews. So this one was the Alba, the Scots Pine Ale from the historic recipe range at Williams Brothers Brewing Company here in Alloa in Clackmannanshire in Scotland. Slange just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Cheers.